India at the turn of the millennium was a nation of staggering extremes. On one side, profound street-level poverty. On the other, the fierce ambition to become a nuclear-armed superpower. At the center of this ambition stood APJ Abdul Kalam. As an aerospace scientist, he engineered the country's most formidable military assets, directing the ballistic missile program that produced the Agni. Kalam lived as an ascetic even as he managed this devastating arsenal. He carried only a single suitcase, spent his evenings writing Tamil poetry, and played the veena, a traditional stringed instrument. How does an outsider scientist, a man responsible for weapons of mass destruction, bypass every traditional rule of political power to become the universally beloved people's president? The answer lies in a rare genius-level capacity for synthesis. Kalam acted as a master integrator, effortlessly fusing together worlds and people that seemed entirely incompatible. His career began in the quiet pursuit of science. At the Indian Space Research Organization, Kalam spent decades grinding away on civilian technology, eventually directing the launch vehicle that put India's first satellite into orbit. He then took that exact aerospace engineering and ported it directly over to the military. Taking the helm of the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, he erased the line between civilian space exploration and national defense. This initiative produced a massive quiver of tactical weapons, earning him a fierce reputation worldwide as the Missile Man of India. But he refused to let these advancements stop at warfare. He actively searched for ways to spin deadly technology back into tools for healing. Working alongside a cardiologist, Kalam took the specialized metals designed to survive the intense heat of atmospheric re-entry and used them to create a low-cost coronary stent. This device suddenly made life-saving heart surgery affordable for thousands of impoverished patients in rural areas. For him, technology had no rigid borders. There was no strict binary between a weapon and a medical cure, only knowledge, applied as a unified force to elevate the nation. By 2002, India's political landscape was deeply fractured. Coalition governments clashed constantly, and hyper-partisan gridlock dominated the national conversation. Into this environment stepped a highly unusual candidate for the highest office. He was a lifelong bachelor, a devout Muslim in a Hindu-majority nation, and a scientist with zero political background. Yet his nomination achieved a modern political miracle. The ruling coalition proposed him, and the fierce opposition party immediately backed him. Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and his cabinet championed his candidacy, ensuring a near-unanimous victory across the deeply divided parliament. He pulled this off by remaining obsessively focused on a unified roadmap he called India 2020. He framed national development as a shared, urgent mission of education and economic growth, elevating the dialogue entirely out of the petty squabbles of the day. His election showed that a singular focus on development could temporarily bridge India's most aggressive political rifts, resulting in a rare moment of total consensus. This capacity to bridge divides started in his childhood. An imam sit down for evening tea to discuss community issues with the head priest of the local Hindu temple. He maintained a deep personal devotion to Islam throughout his entire life. Daily namaz and fasting during Ramadan were strict, non-negotiable pillars of his routine. But he layered that Islamic devotion with a profound respect for the country's broader heritage. He learned Sanskrit and regularly studied the Bhagavad Gita and other sacred Hindu texts. He even considered a prominent Hindu leader, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, to be his ultimate spiritual teacher, crediting the Swami with placing him in what he described as a God-synchronous orbit. Instead of seeing faith as a tool to separate groups, he used it as the ultimate framework for intercultural dialogue. Religion, to him, was a method of making friends. When his presidential term ended in 2007, he chose not to cling to power. Instead, he returned to the identity he valued most, a teacher. He spent his final years traveling, setting a personal goal to interact with hundreds of thousands of young minds. At age 83, he collapsed and died exactly the way he wanted to live, standing in front of an auditorium, delivering a lecture to students. Kalam provided a living blueprint for the idea of India, a nation where scientific progress and ancient tradition were treated as a single, integrated identity. In a modern world that demands we pick a side and stay there, his life proves that progress does not require choosing between tradition and science, or strength and peace. True power lies in our capacity to synthesize the world around us.